Essentially, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you're coming from or where you're calling in from. Thanks everyone for being here. And I know we'll have more people joining as we get started. But welcome on another Friday morning. I think at this point everybody should know me, but I'm Cheryl Martinez. I am the STEM program manager with Growth Sector. You should know who Growth Sector is, but if you're unsure, Growth Sector is the backbone organization, and we work closely with your individual campuses in regards to implementing the STEM core program. So whether it's called STEM core or Bridge to Engineering or OMG or Engineering Tech Scholars, still the same program, but STEM core is sort of like the umbrella term that we call it. But we're excited to have all of you here today, and especially excited to have our partners from Cisco joining us today. So you all have probably heard from myself, from your student support specialists and your faculty about this partnership that Growth Sector and STEM Core has with Cisco that we're super excited about. Lots of opportunities for all of you to be able to get engaged from virtual talks like this to potential internships and research opportunities. So today is really an opportunity to hear more directly from Cisco in terms of how you all can get involved and opportunities for overall engagement. So we have just under an hour today to be able to connect with our hosts and hopefully to be able to answer a lot of the questions that some of you guys have. So I will turn things over to our host for today, Jill Cruz, to get us started.
Great, thanks. And actually, Mia, or Amelia, I know she pops up as Amelia, she is going to be our MC, but I will be supporting any questions. So if you have questions already in your mind, feel free to drop them in the chat. And that way we can kind of kick off the conversation as she goes through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. As Jill said, we are engagement managers. Our goal really is to find students like you. Students who are in their program, about to finish a program, for internships and for full-time positions. And that's why we are so excited for this partnership, and we hope you are able to take a lot out of it. So when it comes to Cisco, again, you kind of just met us, but I do want to talk a little bit more about what it is that we're doing today. So this is part of our Discover Cisco series. And this really is kind of show you who Cisco is, and not just as a company overall, what you might have heard, but kind of get to know the people a little bit, our purpose more so about us, and how we really stand out as a company. We're really trying to offer a unique way to connect with people really across the globe. Cisco alone has offices in 95 cities in the US, and across the country, we're in 95 different countries. So I think that's really awesome. And we really are everywhere. So I think it's exciting. It's also really cool just to be a part of something that is so big and really making a difference. So with today's agenda, we are going to talk about a couple of different things. We are going to talk about really the purpose of Cisco and our enterprise, so you can get to know us a little bit better, to even consider if Cisco is a company that you want to consider when you're applying for jobs. We of course hope that you do, because we're biased, we work for Cisco, but you still should be thinking about really what it is what you want out of your future. We're also going to be joined by one of our incredible talent sourcers. Her name is Kashi, and she's really going to be able to talk to us a little bit more about the software engineering assessment, which we'll get to in a little bit. And then we'll open it up for your questions as well. And as Jill said, she is in the chat monitoring things. So if you do have a question about something that comes up, she is there to help out. Or if it's a question that a lot of people have, we'll open it up and you'll get to hear my voice because I love hearing my own voice, but y'all are just now getting the first opportunity to deal with it. So when it comes to Cisco's purpose, we really are founded in this idea of powering and inclusive for all. And as I said, we're pretty much everywhere, which is a really exciting thing. But we're not just looking at inclusivity from the human perspective, we're looking at it from the environmental perspective and how our technology has an impact. And how can we really not only create technology for today, but create technology for tomorrow and the next tomorrow, which I think is really phenomenal. We're in a couple different places. We are in sports, we're in the government, we're in education, we're a little bit everywhere, but I'll get to that in a minute. And we're really truly making this commitment to our customers to create this future, again, as I said, for all. And one of the ways that we do this is really by investing in our people and investing in our communities. I think one of my favorite things about Cisco is how much we invest. So one of the things that you'll see today is our inclusive communities. And through our inclusive community, Cisco really does a lot development, personal development, and also giving back. And I think that's really where Cisco for me stands out, is as part of the company, one of the benefits that you would receive if you were to become a Cisconian is that you would get 40 hours a week in volunteer time. That is paid, and that's really awesome because if you are someone who is involved, maybe you want to get back to growth sector, maybe you want to become a mentee in growth sector, and really help out, then you would be able to do that through Cisco and as part and still get paid to do it, which is pretty awesome. Our company itself is just over 84,000 people, and as I said, that's in 95 countries. Our inclusive communities do a lot. This is just a slew of our 29 communities. About a third of all our Cisconians are actually involved in our employee resource groups and in these communities. One of the biggest impacts that we've seen is that throughout the years of these communities, Cisco and Cisconians, whether that is through technology donations, time donations, or financial donations, have actually donated over $1 billion worth of time and resources to different groups and organizations, and I think that's huge. When Ukraine was starting to happen about a year ago, Cisconians really jumped up. Cisco donated technology, we donated our time, we donated our financial resources, and just over $6 million in total was donated to those efforts. So I think that's really cool, but again, I'm biased, I'm a Cisconian. Our Women of Cisco is our largest employee resource group. Our Conexion, which is our Latino network, just celebrated their 20th anniversary. So even though we have these groups, please know that they've been around for a bit. This is not a new or novel concept. So we want you to not just be involved with Cisco, but involved in your communities and what makes you you.
And I want to call out the wonderful thing about these EROs or the employee resource groups is that there are regional groups. So like Mia said, there are 84,000 employees, which is overwhelming. But think about where you're located. They have regional groups for people in New England. They have regional groups for people in California, RTP, which is in North Carolina. So if you're thinking, how am I really going to connect with these people? They're across the globe. There is probably someone in your backyard who works for Cisco that is a part of one of these EROs. So it's really cool to connect with people that are close by.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. So a little bit more about our careers at Cisco. We have a bunch of different careers, to be honest. Even though it's a tech company, a lot goes into that. And I think that's really great because it's not just the technology side of the house. We also really rely on our professional folks, whether that's sales and marketing, communications, HR, finance. We do a lot, and because we're such a big company, we need people everywhere. We rely on our product managers, our project managers, and our recruiters as well. So this is a really great opportunity to not just think of Cisco as a tech company, but as a place where you could truly have a career and explore different sides of your interest and your skill set. So these are just a handful of the careers that we have. Cisco really does hope that if you come to Cisco, you're here for a while. We want you to have not just a job with us, we want you to have a career and have several promotions and really grow yourself. So a couple of the industries that we're in, just to name a few, we're kind of everywhere, to be honest. We are a huge sponsor of the Super Bowl. We are with the WWE. We are in education at NC State and a lot of different companies as well. We are with the government. We help also in healthcare, the cell phones that doctors carry to see if there's an emergency and to get from one part of the hospital to another. That's a Cisco product. Our networking cables are also really huge, and that's a huge part of what we do as well. But we're literally everywhere. If there's a sector, we're probably there. But this is just a few of them. So when it comes to our solutions, I think it's really interesting. We really are looking at how our products are going to be here, not only for today's problems, but tomorrow's problems. And we're looking at the solutions from a software perspective to data. Data science is still a relatively kind of new field. The first undergraduate and master's programs didn't really come out until 2008, which to me is still mind-boggling, because now every time there's a company that kind of comes up or starts up, data is at the core of it, because we need to understand the information that we've collected and how we can utilize it to better understand our customers and the people that we serve. We're in wireless and mobility. We're in computing. We're everywhere. One of our biggest customers for WebEx, believe it or not, is Apple. They are, I think, the biggest customer for our WebEx product. So I think that's pretty exciting. And they have a very dedicated team to make sure that everything at Apple is running smoothly. So really, I think we're the genius bar, but I'm biased. We're also in security and the Internet of Things. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is students are interested in the cybersecurity aspect. We do have an internal and external facing security team, but what we like to say is that security isn't everything. If we cannot make a secure tech product, then what's the point of our company, and what's the point of creating these products if they're not secure? So we do have security experts embedded in every single business group and every single unit within Cisco. And really, what does this mean? Well, the impact is that the software that we're creating, the solutions that we're creating for our folks, for our customers, and for the consumers of these products, is that we're really able to protect millions of users. We've been around since 1984. This is not our first go at creating a product. This is not our first go at understanding security and what people need when it comes to who they're going to for business and the technology sector. And because of that, we've been really fortunate in how we've been recognized. A few of our highlights just happen to include that we're one of the best places to work. By Fortune, we've been ranked this for the last 3 years in a row. We're one of the best places to work for women in technology. We're one of the best places to work for supply chain. We've been recognized by Gartner for supply chain for a long time, actually. We're also recognized by the Human Rights Organization. We've been recognized for the past 17 years as a great place for the LGBTQ community to work for, as well as different organizations such as disability rights and veterans. So these are just a few of our awards, but I really like to think that it's much more inclusive than that, because of all the work that not only the company does, but the people involved in the company do to make sure that it's a great place to work. So I do want to talk a little bit about our technical roles. Since you are a technical nonprofit, you're a member of this phenomenal organization. So some of the biggest technical roles that we really see recruited for are software engineers. These are across the board. Every single business group recruits for this role. I don't know how else to put it, but they're everywhere. We always need software engineers, and we always need a lot of them. Network engineers are also there, as well as our data scientists. We have data scientists and data analytics, and we have hardware engineers, because we are still making a physical product, and we do need a lot of help with that. But these are just some of the roles that we see. And we recruit from a lot of different places. We are recruiting from nonprofits. We are recruiting from community colleges and certificate programs to undergraduate and graduate programs. So really, if you're continuing to learn, we're interested in learning about you. So a couple of things that we want to highlight about resumes, because is kind of the first line of communication with potential applicants. Jill and I tend to get asked about, well, what should I have on my resume? What can I do to really showcase that I'm a great candidate? And these are some of the biggest things that we see, or that we tell people, is really, if you have relevant work experience, please put that on there, but also put your education with that graduation date. That graduation date is really important for our recruiters, because they want to know what they can hire you into. If you're graduating this May, you might be eligible for a full-time role. Whereas if you're graduating next May, you're going to be eligible for an internship and possibly a co-op opportunity. So that date really lets us know what all we might be able to utilize your skill set for. We also want to see relevant coursework. If you maybe haven't had the internship experience yet that you wanted, What type of courses are you taking that are going to be relevant for this job role that you're applying to? And really kind of showcasing through that coursework what your leadership experience is. Are you involved with any extracurriculars on campus? Are you involved with any nonprofits? Are you involved in your community? Those things can really show how you're taking the initiative. I talked to one student earlier today who was helping first generation college students because he really struggled as a first generation college student himself. And he was just doing it on his own through his church. And someone approached him saying, hey, there's actually a nonprofit you can partner with, and they'll give you an even bigger audience to do so. So that showcased his initiative to really work with people on a passion that he had. But then he was able to do it on a bigger scale because someone noticed it. And that's really what we're trying to do, is notice what you're doing, so we can really utilize that skill set in these jobs. If you have coding, oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead. Sorry.
Oh, but if you have coding experience and any technical skills, we also love seeing that at the top of your resume as well. It really does go a long way, but I'll let Jill talk because I've been talking for a minute.
No, you're doing great. I just wanted to call out, if you are one of those people that's like, I want to do software engineering, or I want to do something, and you have a specific interest, how are you highlighting that on your resume? If you want to go into security, if you want to go into cloud computing, is that something on your resume? Because when we're looking at resumes, we're looking at a ton. And if I can see right off the bat, these are your interests and this is your experience, it is so much easier for us to hand you off to a recruiter because you have specified what you're interested in. So use that relevant coursework. If you've taken data and what data algorithms, if you've taken a cybersecurity course, if you've taken programming, if you don't have the experience, really lean on your projects in your relevant coursework to highlight how you would be a good fit for a role at Cisco. So I just wanted to call that out.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Jill. So kind of what we're looking, this is kind of what we've seen. It's just a really well formatted technical resume. This is what that is going to look like in a kind of condensed version. It's going to have your general information. If you also have any websites that are showcasing your work and how you're applying that knowledge, please feel free to include those links as well. Your education will always be at the top, along with, again, any relevant skills that Jill just mentioned. And if you have work experience or projects that would also be relevant to what you're applying for. So I think that's really important, just to showcase it. Again, we just want to see what you're doing and how you're doing it. And some of the projects might look like this. We actually did take this resume from a student who was very successful in getting hired. So this is just something to keep in mind when it comes to how those projects might look, how you might describe them, and how you might showcase exactly what all you're doing. One of the big recommendations that we do have when it comes to candidates is to really kind of think about all the projects that you've done. I think that sometimes we forget how much we do in a day and even sometimes a week. So really think about what it is that you're doing. I used to have a coworker who, when she was applying for a job, she would look at the skill set. And then for every single skill, she would list out all the different projects that she had done or all the different things that could be relevant. So that way, when she went into an interview, she already had mapped out everything and why she was awesome, which I think is a really kind of great way to think about preparation as well, but also how can you showcase yourself? Because at the end of the day, that's what a resume is. It's showing you off and it's trying, and it's really there just to represent you in the best and fullest form.
Yeah, and I'm just going to do a quick call out. You can see here that this candidate has extracurriculars listed. So don't be afraid to highlight, are you a leader of a club? What are your soft skills? Are those on your resume? Because don't forget about, leadership experience, ability to communicate effectively. Those are skills you need, whether you're in a software engineering role or a business analyst role. You need to be able to work on a team. So make sure that teamwork is highlighted on your resume through your projects or any volunteering or extracurricular work you've done.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And now we have our wonderful Kashi. He's going to help understand the software assessment. So, Kashi, if you want to introduce yourself and your awesomeness and take it away.
Yeah. Hey everyone. I'm Kashi. I am a talent ID manager with our emerging talent team. So essentially, I work on finding people digitally through LinkedIn, Handshake, etc., and then help them get into pipeline with some of our interviews and just next steps. So I look at a lot of resumes and a lot of applications every day. And Jill, did you happen to add in that section, the screen part?
Yes, Mia, it should be on the next slide.
Okay, perfect. So I'm just going to talk about the assessment a little bit. I know there's always a lot of worries or concerns about it. And what I want you to hear is it is not as big of a to-do or, a stressful thing. Do not get stressed over it. I like to look at this as something that can help qualify you, not disqualify you. So we mostly look at your resume and your interview. But sometimes we know that you might not be the best speaker in an interview, and maybe we can see on this assessment that they do have the coding skills, and they just weren't able to speak to them. And we also acknowledge that this code.
Kashi, I totally muted you by accident.
I was like, did it mute me or am I okay?
Me.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I don't know where the last part I was saying. Was
You were
your
talking about after you got cut off after you were talking about like being able to effectively communicate. If you can't, they look at the coding skills.
Yes. Okay. So this can help, be a supplemental tool for us to see your coding skills. But really, no, we focus more on your resume and your interview than this. This is just a helpful addition for us. But we do ask everyone to complete it. And it is really important that you complete it because it also helps us see that you are actively interested, you're trying, you are, actively working on your coding. And we do realize that this software assessment, we send this out to lots and lots of people from lots of skill sets, but we're also the ones talking to the early in career. So we do not expect people going for internships or new grad roles to be, 20 plus years into a career in coding. So just want to, settle your, any stress or anxiety you may have about it. But notice it's one time to temp. So whenever you apply to a role, after you apply within 24 hours, you'll get an email saying, hey, can you take this assessment? Don't click on the link or anything until you have time to sit down for 90 minutes to complete it. And then once you open that up, don't click out of the assessment, just really focus on that. You do get to choose your language preference, so you're not being forced into a language that you may have zero experience with. So you do get to choose your languages there, and then yeah, make sure you're not clicking out. What else am I forgetting? If you do have issues within the email, you'll see a link or like a email address that you can ask questions to if you get logged out or anything happens during the assessment, you're not able to open it. But yeah, those are the main things. There are not practice questions that you can utilize. It's 3 questions. It's just asking for some basic coding. I saw that chat question, but it's just asking for some basic coding skills. And again, the most important thing is you just complete it. So your application's complete. If you don't do well, that's okay. We've hired anyone who's made 100 on it, all the way to people who've made zeros on it. So it's not a disqualifier if you do bad. We have hired people who have made zeros, but they were able to talk in their interview and on their resume, all their skills. But maybe testing just isn't their, way of being able to showcase their skills. So yeah, any questions from there on the assessment?
Kashi, is it 90 minutes or can you extend that?
Yes, it's just 90 minutes. And if you run out of time, that happens all the time. Most people do. Just write in as much as you can. and it'll just say whatever you've done within those 90 minutes.
Awesome. Does anyone have any additional questions? You can either ask in the chat or take yourself off mute.
I am so glad that sounds less scary than when you first heard about it. That was my goal. I promise you, it is not a scary thing. If anything, focus more on your resume. Make sure your resume looks real good. And then just make sure you do this part, do the assessment, get it done. But, you know, if you flunk it, don't worry about it.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I have heard that reiterated by like Jill and like Raphael, but it's always like scary. Our students are concerned like once they start, and it's like maybe I won't finish it because I'm not sure how well I'm doing. But that's very encouraging to hear that it just needs to get done.
Yeah, good.
Kashi, are you able to switch up your languages if you know multiple?
Yeah, so within each question, you can choose one for the first, you can choose a second during the second question, or you can do all three the same.
And when they're sent the assessment, do you know how long they have? Like how many weeks?
I believe it's 14 days from the time you're sent the email. So you have 2 weeks. You can do it at any time within those 2 weeks.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else have any questions? Otherwise, I'm just going to keep bothering her. But this is your opportunity to do so.
Jill, you know what I think might be helpful? If you could clarify a little bit for students, you know, like if you can explain the link that a lot of our students had registered to in general to be tapped for, like the growth sector link that gives students access to upcoming like talks and opportunities, but also internships and employment. Can you kind of just like go over like what exactly that is? I think almost everyone on this call has done it, but they weren't exactly sure if they were going to be tapped for internship opportunities or what exactly it meant.
Yeah, sure. So it should have been like the growth sector roster. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah. So this is basically like for us on the back end to see that you're a part of the program. Otherwise, you think about it, if you're applying to jobs, you're basically cold applying to Cisco. And when you register through the growth sector, we can connect the dots, right? We can say, okay, Kashi is applying to the software engineer role. She has attended this growth sector event and she's a growth sector member. So it's kind of easier for us to hand you off to a recruiter that way. Just because you registered, unfortunately, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to be tapped for an interview or being handed off to a recruiter. But it is very useful for our team to actually be able to communicate with recruiters because they trust us that we're handing them candidates that we've met, that have come to events, and that we think would be a really good fit for the role. So if you haven't already registered for the growth sector roster, which you're here, I'm assuming you have, I encourage you to do so. The nice thing about the Cisco website on your end is you can add as many resumes as you want. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I put in a filler resume to my Cisco profile just because I had to create one, you can go back in and add as many as you want. So if you want to update your resume with a new job experience, or if you're like, I didn't highlight this leadership experience well, you can go back and add as many resumes as you want, which I really appreciate because everyone's resume is ever changing. So that is something I would recommend doing. As you get more experiences, as you take more classes, make sure you are updating that on the Cisco website. Mia has kindly put up 2 different QR codes. So the one on the left, if you haven't already done so, because you have created a growth sector profile, it doesn't mean you've created job alerts. So it is an extra step. But that being said, you can use your growth sector profile to do this. And if you are interested in data analytics, if you're interested in software engineering, this QR code on the left basically allows you to filter whatever jobs you're interested in. And the nice thing is Cisco is going to email you when those jobs populate. Because right now, if you look at our website, it is very sparse. And I don't want you to think that that's normal. Usually our recruiting season is fall, so a lot of our roles come up in the fall. So in August, it's probably going to be like 25 pages of roles. And this is your opportunity to really think about what you're interested in, filter that job alert, and then you'll be notified when that role opens. And the nice thing, I feel like I'm rambling, I apologize. Now that you've come to this event, that event is going to stay on your Cisco profile for us to see in the fall. So I'll be like, oh my gosh, Cassie came to the growth sector info session back in March. She's applying now to the software engineer role. Let's take a look at her resume and see where she'd be a good fit. So the nice thing about the events you attend, they stay on your profile for us to see. So that's just a call out for why you should attend events. And why you should do the growth sector roster. So Cheryl, I hope that helped.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you. And for STEM core students, you will probably notice that you probably heard from either Myra or myself over like the last like week or two, asking you for your general like areas of interest. And that information was like shared directly with Jill, who is working to like tag you to potential upcoming opportunities as well. So just know that we're all coordinating and talking and yeah, we're working in your best interest to connect you with opportunities.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Cheryl, for that. And I will say, if you don't hear from us, don't think it's not because you're qualified. We probably, like right at now, we just might not have the role. So I don't want you to be scared away or think like I'm not a good candidate. It's also something that we're dealing with on our end of, do we have the demand? So just keep that in mind. If you're open to fall, roles open up at like mid-August, Cassie, right? Would you say mid-August?
Yeah, mid-August.
Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that. I see a question that came in from Miguel. Okay. As an industry, do you wrestle with the communication of innovation as pioneered by the late Everett Rogers? Another way of asking is, how do you sell yourself to a potential employer that has its own history in a non-threatening way? I was Peace Corps in Bolivia on a daily basis. I was tasked in a non-threatening way. That's a good question. I think I want to make sure I understand it. How do you sell your, is it more of like, are you asking like, how do you sell yourself in like an interview, and like make yourself maybe come off as non-threatening or like not super aggressive? Am I understanding this question correctly? And you can just type in yes or no in the chat if you don't want to come off mute, that's totally fine. Yeah, if we can stop sharing things. If it's the case, I think you are who you are in an interview. I don't think you should change yourself. Cisco very much is be who you are. And that's something I really appreciate about Cisco is you don't have to change yourself for the company. I would say, be mindful of like how you're talking to an employer, be respectful and they'll be respectful to you. But I don't necessarily think I have like advice about being non-threatening. I think everyone kind of communicates differently, but are you communicating effectively? And that's the important key is if you're not being understood by the interviewer, are you going to get the role? It's kind of up in the air. Mia, I don't know if you want to piggyback off of that.
I'll also say don't be afraid to ask a clarifying question. Sometimes I've gotten lost in a question from an interviewer, what their intention is, what their purpose is of the question. So I'll take a second, maybe write down a keyword or phrase that I understood and really kind of attach to and just kind of rephrase it in a way that makes sense to me and say, is this actually what you meant? Or interpretation of this question. That not only gives you time to think about how to respond, but it also shows that you're also an active listener and that you're processing everything that is being given to you. So don't be afraid to do that. That does not make you look a certain way. It just shows that you truly are committed to the process that you're in and that you're respecting it as well.
Yeah, that's a great call out. And like echoing that, that happens in like my real life job every day. I'm like, wait a second, I don't understand what that meant. Can you explain in a different way? And I would say that Cisco very much, everyone is very open.
Okay, so how does Cisco offer ideas to another industry in a way that respects that company's history? That's a great question. I'm personally not sure on how to answer this one just because I think our sales team is probably going to be the leader on this a little bit more. I will say Cisco as a company itself is very cognizant of its impact. And one of the things that I'm really a huge fan of, and I'm wearing the environmental sweatshirt today, is it's a commitment to the environment and making sure that our products are sustainable, that they're not just meant to be used for a day or a year, what have you. They're really meant to last as long as possible. And that when the product is ready to be retired, it can be shipped back and recycled and then can be replaced at a cheaper price than maybe the full sale price would be because it's already an existing customer. Especially when it comes to single-use plastics, we're really working to eliminate that in our carbon footprint. So I think Cisco is very cognizant of how it's interacting with other countries, with the environment, with really how it's presenting itself to the world. I think we're a company that flies under the radar a little bit. We're not as flashy as some of the other companies out there. But because of that, I think we're able to focus on our purpose more, which is that inclusivity and the future for all. I'm not sure if I'm answering that question correctly at all, I'll be honest.
Answer a little bit more on that too. Our customer service team tailors and curates every product experience partnership that we have to the group that we're partnering with or the customer. So it is very tailored to their needs and, issues they may have come up or, pain points. So it's very tailored and not, this is our one product that we're pushing to you and the one thing that we do, and this is all we offer. So it's very tailored, and every partnership is very, very different, if that helps at all. But yeah, we can move on.
Thank you, Kashi.
Yeah.
Another question came in from Becca. In addition to full-time summer internships, will there be part-time jobs in the fall?
We generally do not have part-time roles. We have internships, which are summer only. They're 8 to 10 weeks. They are paid. And we have full-time roles, which are the two most common things that we see either requested from a job requisition standpoint or that are just out there, that they're just the most populous. And those full-time roles, again, are 40 hours a week. We do not expect you to work 60 hours a week at this company. We understand that work-life balance is very important. Unfortunately, though, part-time is just not something we have the bandwidth to offer right now. Summer internships depends on the role itself if it's going to be remote. And I'll share my screen real quick and kind of walk you through the job process itself. If my PowerPoint will let me. Sorry. I'm using a non-Cisco product and it's not working. There we go.
Shame.
And of course, I'm now having issues typing because I jinxed myself. So I want to introduce you, if you haven't seen it before, our Jobs at Cisco website. This is really where we're going to talk to everyone about going. And we're going to kind of give you a few tips and tricks that Kashi and Jill, if you want to jump in while I'm doing this, please feel free to. For the country or region, I'm going to say United States. And as Jill warned ahead of time, when we do this search, it's not going to be pretty. Like everything will open up in the fall. For state, I'm not going to select a specific state. The reason why is because this will not show remote opportunities and this will not show alternative locations. And what we mean by alternative locations is Cisco has locations in 95 cities in the US alone. Our 4 prominent ones are going to be California, North Carolina, Texas, and Georgia. Those are just the 4 largest offices. If you select a state, you won't see alternative locations and you won't see remote. For job type, I'm just going to kind of select a few things. I'm going to select early in career and intern. So early in career really is designed for individuals who are finishing up a program, who have 0 to 3 years experience in the field that you're interested in. And then area of interest you can select. I'm just not going to right now because we don't have enough open, but you can do a couple of different things, and you can even actually filter it even further with a technology interest. So if you are really into security, if you are into data analytics, if you are all day, every day WebEx collaboration because you just loved using the WebEx platform today, we got you. And you can do that as well. But for the purpose of this exercise, I'm not going to. And as you can see, there are a whopping 5 things. All of them are interns, and this is what we meant by the alternative location. So the primary location that they would prefer someone to be in is San Jose, California. However, they have a couple of other locations as well, such as Raleigh, Austin, Texas, another California location in Maryland. So by not selecting the state, you'll be able to see this a lot more. Offsite pretty much means remote. So that's what you're going to want to look for if you're looking for remote opportunities. The other thing as well that I'll point out here is the stay in touch feature. We have the QR code, but you can also do it from our jobs.cisco site. You can upload with your LinkedIn or your resume. And then I want to also showcase our emerging talent page because this is what y'all are. And this is a great way to kind of learn about some of the different groups that we have. So if you are interested really in working with people, maybe are a former restaurateur, you have worked with customers all day, every day, you're just very comfortable in that environment. Well, our customer experience team and being a software engineer on that team might be a really great fit for you because they're the ones that are taking the tough cases. When Apple fails, we become the genius bar. Like that's the team that's doing it. So that's what we want to showcase as well. If you are really about security and trust and becoming a software engineer in that front, that's going to be a great team to check out. Or maybe you are all about supply chain and you want to work within software and supply chain. That's great. We also have engineers on our sales team because someone has to understand the product and fix the bugs in the product. So please know that our software engineers and those engineering roles are everywhere. But I'm on a tangent. So
Mia, can you copy that emerging talent and
Yes.
put it in the chat? That would be awesome.
Absolutely.
That way y'all can go through your interests, figure out where you might be a good fit. Because like Mia said, there is a job for everyone here at Cisco. And I stand by that, with the exception of like maybe being a medical doctor. But if you have like a background in business and you're like, I don't know where I'd fit, trust me, there is a spot for you. So definitely check out that emerging talent website. Do we have any other questions? Feel free to ask in the chat. You can unmute yourself.
So we did record this presentation today, and Cheryl, correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be sending it out for folks who want it. So you'll also have a visual recording if you need to go back and look at some of the slides as well.
Yep, correct. So our STEM Core YouTube channel, this will be posted to that channel with the event. So you guys will all get the link for that.
Awesome. I have a question for Cassie if no one else wants to ask. But Cassie,
you're in the hot seat today.
You said that you see a lot of resumes. What tips do you think you would recommend that we didn't mention in our presentation? What do you look for? What's a standout thing on a resume, a skill or anything?
I definitely think having your skill sections at the top is most helpful. Recruiters, whenever it's just, if I can see it at the top, that's so helpful to be able to read the listed skills. I would even say like including if you have taken a class on like, I don't know, computer networking or cybersecurity, add that in your skill section. Even if you don't feel super confident in it, if it's something you're interested in taking a class in, again, these are emerging talent roles. added in your skill section, if that's even something that you've like had some touch points with. So don't be scared to add things to your skills. Yeah, I see some resumes that only have 3 or 4 skills, but I know that you've been in, classes much longer than a couple of days, so you have more skills. Add them, even if you aren't in advance in those skills yet.
That's awesome. We also did get a question in the chat about some of the groups and resources that we offer, and I shared in the chat. We do have military. We are a military-friendly employer, and so we do have specific resources for that. And I'm also trying to look for our complete list of inclusive community groups. But to follow up on the question from Jill to Kashi, is it always better to keep resumes to one page?
I would say for, most of these roles that are in your early stages, probably yes. If it goes over to 2 pages, don't worry about it. But for, some of these first roles, I would say, yeah, you can easily probably fit what you need to on 1 page. Also, just another plug on the Discover Cisco website that Jill first put in at the very beginning. There's a recording called Discover Cisco at a Glance, Transfer Your Strengths with Us. There's a great Q&A portion in that one, so I would go back and watch that recording because there was some really good conversation about resumes that you may not even think to ask, but there might be questions in there you can go back and look at later too.
Charlie, I see your hand up. If you want to unmute yourself, feel free.
Yeah, I have a question. So, during the internships, right? Are students like, do they like write research paper or like, besides like, doing the work for Cisco, like, is there like any other things that like, student like have to do, like, if that makes sense?
I don't think so. Like as far as like research papers or anything like that, it's very hands-on, right? We're not making you get coffee. We're not making you make copies. You are very much learning on a team, and it is role dependent. And me and Cassie jump in whenever, but depending on what role you get into, you're on a team with anyone who's been at Cisco for 20 years to another intern, right? It's not like you're only with other interns. You are learning from each other, but as far as like the work, it is relevant to the role you're applying to. So if you're software engineering, that is what you're going to be doing. I don't think there is any like additional research papers or anything like that.
Do you know what's like a day to life of like a network engineer intern? Like, do you know what is it like?
Ooh, network, you said, right?
It
Truthfully,
varies.
I'd have to look at the job description. I tell people that we know a little bit about a lot, but I would not know the in and out of every single job. But Kashi, you may know at least what someone looks for a network engineer, so you might know a little better.
Yeah, it's so different team by team. Every team operates a little bit different. I've heard of everything from very hands-on partnered with a network engineer, you're working very closely to them versus like being given your own projects. I'm going to keep plugging this site, and I'm so sorry, but it is great resources on that same Discover Cisco site. I don't know if it's been added yet, but it probably will be. There's another recording that's called A Day in the Life at Cisco, and they talk with a few employees about like kind of what their roles look like. It's in our Europe region. That's the recording in, but it still applies. We're very global, so it'll still give you a good idea of what a day in a life might look like.
All right, yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions?
Hi, I'm Justin Velasquez from Foresight Tech campus of growth sector. And I have a question regarding where my resume was supposed to be. Was I supposed to update it through the website? Because I submitted it through growth sector and I was wondering if you had access to that.
That's a good question. I will have to go through the growth sector roster to see if your resume is attached, and if not, I can message Cheryl and let her know.
Yeah, but Justine, I do recall, so you did submit a resume directly to growth sector, but I think specifically for Cisco, if you have access, like if you created an account, right? And
Yeah,
with your-
I'm actually at the website right now because I know they've been mentioning we can update it, and I realized I didn't put my resume in the website.
yeah, so
This
I
is-
would definitely encourage you to make sure your resume is uploaded there as well. Because it doesn't
And
hurt to have it both
It's
ends.
not too late, right, to upload it? Because I know this has been. Oh,
Nope.
Oh gosh, no, feel free. Yeah, upload as
okay.
many as you want, and yeah, because truthfully, there aren't a ton of jobs open right now. So you do have time. But yeah, if you're still looking for a summer internship and it is a role that might align with your resume, then definitely I encourage you to upload those resumes today.
And I was also thinking about including a program I haven't done yet on my resume, but by the time summer comes, I'll be finished with it. Cause it's like starting this March. It's called CS50. It's like a self-paced programming course. Could I include that in my resume as well?
You sure can. I encourage it. So if you have
Oh,
classes that you're, in the middle of taking, you can still include them on your resume. I would just, for the date, say like expected May, June, whenever you're finishing the program. So we understand that, oh, you're working through it right now.
okay, thank you.
Of course. And then I see a hand up from Gusharan, if you want to unmute yourself.
Yes, hello everyone. I'm a student at Ohlone College, and I applied through growth sector as well. And there was an issue with the link that was sent to the students. I'm not sure if it was the same at all all the colleges, but I think the link wasn't really working for us to register for the roles or like in general show interest for internships. So I think we had to manually email the person who's helping us through growth sector. So I just wanted to ask if I should still upload my resume on the website where I have an account with you guys already, or should I also, or would you guys be getting it from growth sector?
I think I have you pulled up and I have your resume.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
you should be good. Cheryl's on top of this.
Yeah, so
you should be
Gershon,
good.
I would encourage you, so you might have heard from myself or from Myra reaching back out to
yes,
you to list, we gave you like a list of potential like interests at
yes.
Cisco or, yeah, so that didn't mean that the link wasn't working and you weren't registered. We were just getting further clarification. That way we could share it back with Jill and the team, right? So
Oh,
as
okay.
long as your profile is up and you've already registered through that initial link that we sent you, then you're good.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm pretty sure I did register and it shows as like an event on my Cisco login page as well.
Yeah,
Thank
and I
you.
think that was when, yeah, so you're registering for like the Cisco like roster, and that's kind of like what we were going over at the beginning of the call is that so it's not confusing for you. It's not that you're applying for a specific position, it's that you're in like this portal indicating that you are a participant involved with growth sector and STEM core. That way we could connect you to appropriate positions so that you're not just sort of like applying blindly. It's sort of like you're a part of a specialized program and being tagged or being connected that way.
Sounds perfect. Thank you so much.
We have about 5 minutes left. Okay. I have a follow-up on Justine's question. Would the same thing apply to adding unfinished projects to our resume if you plan to finish them before summer? Yes, I would encourage you, if you have a project that is relevant to a role that you're interested in, even if you're working through it, you can add it on your resume. What I would recommend for resumes, and Cash, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but be mindful of what you're putting on your resume and how much. Is your resume like packed? Is it one page where you've got like barely any margins? Because that kind of can be a little painful to look at, I'll be honest. So make sure that the projects, your roles, your previous experience are relevant to the role you're applying to. That doesn't mean you can't include a customer service job or maybe a project where you did, business analytic works and you're looking for a software role. But just be mindful of how much you have on your resume and how it relates to the role you're applying to. So I hope that helps. Anyone else? Do we have any other questions, whether it's resume or Cisco in general? We are here for you.
No, I think this was just overall super helpful, and also like reassuring on like growth sector and STEM course part, because this is a lot of the same information that we've been sharing with students. So really great to hear that we're all on the same page. So I would encourage for our students, as like questions come up, I mean, you've been in contact with growth sector ongoing throughout this process, so feel free to reach out to us. And then in terms of the recording of today's session, and resources, I will send that out to everybody after this. It'll be posted to our STEM Core YouTube channel.
Awesome. Yeah, and if any questions come up and you don't want to ask now, shoot them to Cheryl and we can do our best to answer. So yeah, it was great meeting everyone. Thank you so much for coming, but we can wrap up, give you a whole 3 minutes back on your Friday.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Huge shout out to the Cisco team for taking time on a Friday. We appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you
Great.
guys
Thanks.
for coming out and sharing.
Of course.
Thanks. See you guys.